take into consideration all of the issues that we've just outlined, what does success for Prime Minister Mark Carney look like at this summit?
Well, it's tempting to say to not make things worse or aggravate the president, but it's certainly not that simple. There is a chance, perhaps a slim chance, that some consequential progress can be made. And I suppose moving in the direction of progress on these big, cumbersome issues that you've alluded to, the invasion of Ukraine, what's happening in the Middle East, which is getting arguably worse by the day and has the opportunity to become a broader regional conflict. And let's not overlook what's happening in the South China Sea between China, Taiwan, and that entire region. And then you have other big issues that hit closer to home. You referenced trade. There was political assassinations in the United States. This is a arguably volatile time for these world leaders to be coming together. And we've, as you know, we've added others to the mix. It is beyond just the 7 countries that make up the G7.
Let's start where we were looking at in the news this morning, which is this deadly fire ongoing between Israel and Iran. The summit is starting this morning, and we're 4 days into this conflict. Iran hit Israel with missiles overnight. Israel this morning saying they now have full operational control over Tehran's airspace. How does this conflict shape the discussions that will be happening in Alberta?
Well, the United States has sort of denied culpability in any of this, but suffice it to say that the U.S. could quickly become embroiled in this conflict in the region. The president has spoken about this only insofar as he believes that Iran should enter into a non-proliferation agreement similar to the one that was in place years ago. I don't see that happening, sadly, anytime soon. And so it does very much have the possibility of overtaking the events of these discussions happening in Kananaskis. I can't see how world leaders could possibly avoid this or try to put it to one side. Similarly, with Mr. Zelensky in Alberta, there is going to be a lot of pressure for world leaders to turn their attention back to the Ukraine. The challenging is, of course, there is only so much space on the agenda, and all of the bilateral meetings that will be attempting to be scheduled are going to take up a lot of the leaders' time, like the one that happened yesterday between Mr. Carney and the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
We saw that, and then this morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, we know that U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney are meeting. It's interesting, the words that people are using now, we don't talk about deals coming out of this G7 summit, we talk about frameworks of deals, because really that's all that seems to be happening globally. But right off of his birthday celebrations, U.S. President Trump will be meeting with other world leaders, and what I find interesting about this is the first time we're going to see him outside of the Oval Office, meeting with these leaders. This will be not on his home turf. He's going to be surrounded by people whose countries he's levied tariffs against. So what do you think the dynamic is in the room between him and the other members, plus the other invitees, as you mentioned?
Well, it will be tense, and perhaps to make an allusion to Alberta, don't poke the bear. I think they all want to come away with a de-escalation plan, but at the same time, it will very much depend on the mood of the president. Maybe coming off this military parade in Washington and his birthday celebrations, he'll be in a good frame of mind. But that is really in the wind. It's very, very difficult to predict, very uncertain which version of Donald J. Trump will show up. But the fact that he's there, the fact that there will be an opportunity to have these face-to-face meetings, put these issues on the table, talk about getting back to what some would call a normalization of trade relations and, of course, supply chain and all of the economic fallout that is going to inevitably affect the United States as well. These are the issues of our time. And as I mentioned earlier, the relationship with China and those trade relations, while not on the agenda officially, are very much part of these discussions, because a counter by the West, an attempt to somehow pull together at a time where it's very clear that our adversaries are doing just that. They are pulling together, and we need to do the same rather than be fractured and vulnerable and susceptible to more economic fallout and worse in terms of the security threat.
You know, you framed it so nicely. I keep thinking of what they refer to as the family photo, where all the leaders stand together. That's happening a little bit later this evening. And I'm fascinated by the dynamics of who do you put next to who, given the people who are there right now and the relationships globally. But I feel like when you look at that photo, it is a moment in time and a critical moment in history, and it's all happening here in Canada. Peter MacKay, thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, Emery. Thank you.